Well, while Seth gets plugged in back there, we can go ahead and kick off now that he's back in the room. I start with the same boring ass question every time. It's a simple introduction, so we'll go around the Zoom screen here. Everybody, take a second, introduce yourselves, and just quick background on it.
Cool. I'm Pat. I am one of the singers and guitar players in House and Home.
I'm Matt. I play drums for House and Home and Suntitle.
And I'm Seth. I yell profanities and play bass in Suntitle.
That's the best way to do it, though, right?
Like that's how he introed himself on the last interview we did too.
Yeah.
Like
as
that.
a former bass player, that we don't get a whole lot of love in the first place, so we got to.
I'm taking my aggression out on everyone.
Yeah, awesome. So like I said at the beginning, thank you guys for all of you taking the time to do this, because I think it's really cool. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with this split EP as well, and kind of diving straight into it with the fact that I've talked to a lot of friends about this and this project, and just how rare it is, right? Like in the traditional pop realm or even the rock realm, you have guest vocals, but not many artists other than in the pop punk and alternative scenes are like, hey, we're fucking friends. You write a few songs, we'll write a few songs, and let's put something out together. What's it like doing that versus just, hey, do you want to come sing on this track?
I think that both of our bands are pretty heavily influenced by hardcore, and it is a pretty prevalent thing in the hardcore community and in hardcore music. So that's for sure where the idea came from. And I mean, even outside of that, like some of our favorite non-hardcore bands have done splits, and I do think it kind of has fallen off a little bit in the past 10 years or so. Like you don't see as many of them coming out, and I always thought it was such a cool format. And it's how I found out about a lot of bands too. It's like a band I like does a split with another band I've never heard of, and then I just end up listening to that band, and it kind of like I grow my taste out of that. And
yeah,
I think it is kind of just rooted in the simple, like, our friends are in a band that we play with and we like a lot. Let's just do something together. And it is simple and doesn't have to have this like big complicated business strategy behind it. And it was just kind of like a no-brainer for us. Like we both wanted to do it, and so it just made sense and lined up timeline wise, which made it easier. But even if it didn't, I'm sure we would have found a way to make it happen, because we thought it was like a cool idea,
right? Yeah.
What do you guys like think? All of the Suntitle songs were recorded and ready when we like kind of came up with the idea. So the Suntitle single before the split, Bed of Roses, those were part of like a 3-song EP that we just had no idea what to do with. And that was when House and Home started talking about going into the studio and putting out 2 songs. And yeah, I was kind of like, well, if we're doing 2 songs, like we could just do a split.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, even after we both released music, I'm sure we would have wanted to like play shows or do a tour together at some point anyway. And I mean, it just, excuse me, it just made sense. And like Suntitle is one of those bands that House and Home has gotten closest with just through playing. So I mean, we're usually just down to do whatever with them. And it's like, I feel like we're both our bands are kind of at a point where we see growth, at the very least, relative to where we were when we met. Both our bands have grown a lot, and I think it's kind of cool to revisit that relationship in front of everybody else by doing a split together. So it was cool. I had fun with it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I was gonna say, I think it makes it easier when it's friends, right? Like this wasn't, like you said, it's not a like a marketing ploy where the label stepped in and was like, hey, these guys are your label mates, go fucking do something with them. It's no, like, these are our friends.
Right. We're not even label mates. honestly. The label just put the split out for us, but yeah, I mean, it was completely our idea, and I don't know, as far as like marketing and stuff goes, is like for us, Open Your Ears has been cool enough to just be cool with whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
So when we brought the idea to them, like they knew Suntitle and they love Suntitle. They're like, yeah, of course, that'd be awesome. So it, was just like an idea that we had where they were like, not that we tried super hard, but there like was no downside. It's just like this would help both of our bands, and it would just be fun to collaborate together. And also, like, when either of our bands write music, we always end up kind of workshopping it and showing it to each other. Like Suntitle did vocals for their songs in this room in my apartment, and we like basically wrote the lyrics, or wrote the rest of the lyrics based off of what Joe already had here together. And so it was kind of collaborative before we even decided to do the split. So
yeah, I think, I want to hear, like, Seth, from your point of view, kind of, again, that conversation, how does it go from you guys' perspective when Pat is hitting you up going, hey man, I know we're friends, but let's do this thing together?
I mean, it's not that weird to me. I think like our friendship's like kind of way more than just like, I mean, me, Matt, and Pat have lived together on and off since
2017.
2017,
yeah, 2016,
2018.
17.
Yeah. So like we've known each other for like a really long time. Like we've been playing shows together since we were like in our like high school bands. Like we've known each other for like a really long time. So like it's really like a no-brainer. Like it's not like we had to like put much thought behind it. It was kind of just like they threw the idea out and it's just like, hell yeah, let's jump on it. Like it didn't take much thought.
I think a big part of it came from the fact that Matt joined Suntitle too, and ended up is now playing in both bands. So the split was actually his idea, and he brought it to Suntitle, and then they brought it up to us. And I think we were all at lunch while we were in the studio recording our two songs when Matt brought the idea up to us, and we were all just like, I mean, yeah, cool. Like it wasn't even really a conversation. It's just, yeah, obviously we're down.
Yeah. Well, my bad, Matt. I didn't mean to steal the credit from you on that.
Oh no, you're all good.
For you, playing in both bands, obviously, there is the no-brainer. And again, this is one of those things that doesn't happen in a lot of, like, there's obviously a lot of artists that jump from project to project or whatever. But in the pop punk realm, like, it's much more common for artists to like share talent, quote unquote. So like for you, transitionally, I guess, what's that like, stepping into both bands and kind of performing similar music, but obviously much different too?
It's about time someone asked you that question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, so for the Suntitle stuff, we are actually going into the studio this weekend, and this is going to be the first thing that I've actually ended up recording for Suntitle.
Mm-hmm.
So when the only Joe, the singer and guitar player in Suntitle, is Joe basically is Suntitle. Like he's the only original member that's left. He is the driving force behind it. All of us just show him support wherever we can. But it, like, that stuff was recorded at a weird time where they were still up in Jersey. This is before Joe had moved down, and they were like constantly just like had a revolving door of fill-ins. Um, Most people from other bands that they, had played with, or people from the scene. And so their old drummer, I think I'm pretty sure it was the original drummer, DJ, actually ended up recording all that stuff. Which is cool for me because like kind of a full circle moment for DJ where like he wrote a lot of stuff like the original like Suntitle, and then like came back and did it through this, and I love what he did. Like I love playing the song. So as of right now, there's definitely like stuff that I'll throw in there live, just to make it a little more like natural to my playing style. But yeah, like as of right now, it's just been listening to songs and just playing what I hear on the recording. So I'm excited for this upcoming weekend. But I mean, as far as transitioning, it wasn't really that weird, I'd say, because like we had done 2 tours with Suntitle already, pre and post COVID. So yeah, that relationship was already there. Joe just kind of hit me up. I think it was in like spring of 2022, I think. Was like, hey, like we need a drummer for this full US tour. Like, I know it's a lot. Like, think about it, get back to me. Before we even got off the phone, I was like, I'm in. I was like, yeah,
Right.
just send me the set list and I'll start going. And it was a wild tour. I had wisdom teeth surgery the morning we left for that tour. Poor planning on my end,
A little bit.
but yeah. So it was a 30-day tour post surgery in, in a van with no AC in the middle of July. It was one that I will never forget. But like we all made the best of that, and I think from there, like me and Joe, just as far as like band members, had clicked really well.
Mhm.
So it was just one of those things where like we kept joking about it and he'd be like, "Oh, you're in Suntitle," because he also kept saying that he didn't want to steal me from House and Home, and I was like, "We can make it work as we are
Yeah.
now." Like everybody's pretty good at like communicating when their plans are and everything like that. So there's not any. We haven't had any like overlap or anything like that with tours or anything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a pretty easy thing to transition to, and then from there, it was basically same thing, just me and Joe, and then other rotating fill-ins, and then I can't remember if Seth or Jesse was the first to join, or if it was like around the same time. But yeah, now it's Joe, me, Seth, and Jesse, and I feel like we have a very solid group of people, and like I'm very stoked on the stuff that we've been writing with Pat. Actually, Pat's been doing a lot of the demoing for us in the studio, so it's just been a cool experience. Like I feel like it's almost just like 2 separate bands, but like kind of what Pat was saying earlier, like it's very much one idea process, I'd say,
Right.
that like goes
Yeah.
into everything.
Yeah. It's like there's two musical projects, but one collective mind kind of fueling both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start with you on this one, Matt, because I think, a lot of people, it'll be easier, I think, for Seth and Pat to answer this. So stepping in and playing somebody else's music, right? What's it
Hmm.
like behind the kit, sitting down and going, okay, I'm just going to, match what he did. Like you said, obviously live, there's some transitions and fills and whatnot, but cool, I have to follow this structure because that's how it was designed. What's the mentality of that when you're learning basically cover songs at that point, right?
Yeah, it was, I mean, like, it wasn't anything, it was almost like kind of reverting back to where I started as a drummer, I'd say, because like, I want to say there was only like 2 bands before House and Home that I like fully, like, we like fully wrote original music. And, um, I think it was like 2 songs for each of those bands, like,
Yeah.
made it to the studio for one of them and we did MIDI drums. So like that was so like House and Home really is the first time that I've like fully been submerged in like the band and like studio culture and all that stuff and like done all of that, which has been awesome. But yeah, like in a way it was just going back to like how I learned, which was just like watching YouTube covers and stuff like that. So it was cool. It was definitely a little different because like I do have different styles from DJ and Danny, the 2 like former drummers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just really cool to kind of almost take that style and just turn it into a part of your playing regularly. Um, but yeah, it's been that was like I would probably say the thing that I was like most anxious about going in and stepping into 2 bands because obviously I don't want them to sound like too similar.
Right.
So I I definitely do a fair share of listening just to Sun Title stuff already, and like other stuff that we jam in the van just to kind of get a different mentality when it comes to drumming. Just because I don't want them to sound, because they are like very similar bands, but yeah, I like to try and kind of keep the styles a little different.
Yeah, I mean, 4 on the floor is 4 on the floor, right? Like,
Yeah.
cool. It we've got this beat. It's fine. What about you guys, Seth and Pat? You're probably a little bit different because obviously you do some cover songs, but like you're not stepping into a new project and trying to sing somebody else's lyrics or put your emotion into it the same way.
No, well, in terms of the split, it was interesting too because actually at some point everybody in House and Home now has filled in for Suntitle.
Okay. Yeah.
The last tour that we did, along with Matt playing since he was already in the band, the last tour that we did with them, Colin and Joey actually filled in on guitar because this was before Seth or Jesse were in the band. So Joe was just singing and both of them were playing. And then on another tour, I actually ended up filling in on bass before Seth. So it was almost like we've all experienced being in Suntitle to a certain extent.
Right.
The mentality around writing our half of the split, I almost feel like in like a respectful way, we kind of were like not even really considering the fact that we were releasing it with another band, because I feel like we felt like it was important for both bands to have like the most honest and like genuine representation of themselves on the split, because I think that was going to be what made it as cool as it possibly could be.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we were trying to match each other or do the opposite and like differentiate each other too deliberately, it would come off as disingenuous. And I think we both kind of tried things in the studio to the point where like you can see, I think, a pretty clear direction that each band is going, and they ended up being pretty obviously different in some really cool ways, but in a way that kind of juxtapose each other to make it like a pretty cool like two halves of a whole kind of thing.
Yeah.
As far as like my mentality playing covers and stuff, I mean, like I've been in original bands for a while. Like, I mean, all of the bands that I've been in have played covers at one point. Even House and Home started out playing some covers. And it's super, yeah, Matt knows. There was, I'll tell this story.
Yeah, those brand new covers don't hit the same.
We played a brand new cover when we were first starting out, pre everything that happened.
Yeah.
And I guess we played like a house show in Richmond. This was back in like 2017 probably, or 2018 maybe. We played Mixtape, and we were playing a house show, and I don't think we had like talked about not playing that song after everything went down. And Matt started counting in a Mixtape, and we all turned around and we're like, no, don't, no.
I don't even remember that.
I'm sure we don't. That was back when we used to drink a lot before we played. But I think I don't know. It's interesting because I think the mentality of like playing covers as opposed to writing your own music is like it calls into question the whole like idea of influence versus like writing something that you feel is original. And it's been kind of a balancing act for all of us, I feel like, as we've gotten more serious of how much do we deliberately try to not rip people off versus how much do we just not think about it. And like, if something sounds cool, I think that's something that we've all gotten more comfortable with in the studio is like, if this is what the song calls for, I'm not worried about it. It's like, oh, does it sound too much like this song? Which I have brought up in the studio, and all the guys are like, shut up. They're like, this is what the song needs.
Right.
And they've always been right.
Those moments where like, or like somebody's tried something and like immediately like our brain shoots to something else and we're like, should we do that?
Yeah.
But
and then you try something else and you're like, it's not as good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it just comes down stylistically to like lyrical content and transitions and like the styles of our own playing. It's like we hear it because we're like over analyzing every little thing in the studio, but like when you listen to the song as a whole, it's like it's not like I think we're focused on writing music that is true enough to ourselves where it's like it inherently is never going to be a carbon copy of something else,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. What about you, Seth? What do you think about, stepping into a band that exists and having to kind of fit the mold, but also trying to spin it to be that
Oh,
personality?
Seth is.
I
I
mean,
feel like Seth's had the toughest time lately because now we're transposing bass parts, and he's basically relearning the songs.
I'm learning it again, but honestly, it's not that bad. It's kind of my bread and butter. I mean, my favorite thing about like doing music in general is like playing live shows. I feel like that's like the most rewarding thing. That's the reason you do all of it. It's not to peddle your merch or whatever. Like you do it to play kick-ass shows with your friends. And so I want to do that as much as possible. So I've filled in for tons of bands. I've done everything from like hardcore, metal, punk, pop punk, whatever. I've filled in for a band and I've done it. I love it. If a band gives me an opportunity to play, I'm gonna learn their fucking songs and I'm gonna play that set. So
Yeah.
it kind of just felt like a no-brainer to me. Like it was like, okay, like here we go again, lock in, load it, learn the songs, play the shows, have fun. And that's just what I'm doing.
I will say, having recorded a metal band that Seth and Matt were both in, Seth, you are 100% focused on how does this translate live when you're playing your bass parts. It's like if I'm holding down the root note, as long as I can spin kick while I'm playing it, I don't give a shit. It's like,
But I think, and maybe Pat, you and I may have talked about this in our previous episode 4 fucking years ago now, but that live element is so important. So to some extent, that has to be on the top of the mind, right? When you're recording a new album or any piece of new work, where like at some point this is going to be played in front of, hopefully hundreds or thousands of people. What are we going to do to make sure that they remember us playing this?
absolutely. I think the way that parts would translate live is always, at the very least, in the back of our heads when we're recording anything. And what I've noticed, at least from my perspective, vocally, especially with me and Joey, is we've started challenging ourselves a little more, and not even like deliberately. Like we just end up writing things that are more difficult, or not even difficult sometimes, but just like less on the nose vocally, where if we can do it in the studio, we always kind of ask each other the question is like, are we going to be able to do this live? And we always look at each other, we're like, we're going to fucking have to. And we figure it out. And then once we get the practice down to actually execute it live, it's like a really cool feeling once you nail it. Because I'm not going to lie, the first couple tries of these two new songs we had live were rough. Like, and then we just like put our heads down and ran with it. And I'm like very, very confident in the way they sound live now, which is cool because I mean, it's always weird learning stuff that you record in a live setting or with the whole band playing live, which is something that you try not to consider too much in the studio because you don't want it to like hinder you creatively. But I think we've all gotten comfortable enough and confident enough in each other to come in with the idea where it's like there's not a whole lot in the studio, at least the way that our band operates, there's not a whole lot in the studio that we would ever do that we can't replicate live. We've never wanted to do that. And also just the way we write and record, it's like it's all stuff that we know we are all down to like put the work in to make sound good live. And if it doesn't sound good now, we're just gonna run it into the fucking ground until it does. And I think that's probably my favorite part of watching live bands is like you can tell who's put in the work. And we've always wanted to be a band where people watch and like, damn, these guys know what the fuck they're doing. Because that's fun. I've always talked about this with my dad because he's a musician too, and he's always said there's nothing better in the world than a good live band, and there's about nothing goddamn worse than a bad live band.
That's pretty true.
Yeah.
That's wise.
And we
words
all
from
had
Pat
people come in.
Williams.
Yeah, and we just all had people come to mind for both those examples too, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
that
Oh.
I'm
popped
not
in
gonna
your
say
mind
it,
for
but
Gray,
yes.
right? And then there was immediately
Matt, you
you
know
go
what I'm
to,
thinking.
holy shit, that guy was terrible.
Well, Joe just showed me like a live video. Like we were at work, and he showed me a live video of the song "The Reason" because we were talking about
Mustang?
bands, and it was like, it like came on just on the speakers at work,
But
and
was the person, was it Hoobastank doing it, or was it a cover of it? Because
I
it's a
just
bold move to
listened to
cover
it.
Hoobastank.
I don't
Yeah.
think it was a cover. I think it was just like a live video of
Okay.
Hoobastank doing it because Joe was like, "This band not great live," and I was like, "Really?" And like it was like the next time I passed him, he just like put the speaker up to my ear, and it was like it went straight into the first verse, and I was like, "Ooh," and just walked away again.
Yeah, no, and I think that's something, I don't know that I've ever really dove into it. You guys are probably a great time for us to do this. Like, I don't think fans understand the difference between recording session and putting the song together, because it is piece by piece. It's Lego building, right?
Yeah,
Versus, okay, it's time to rehearse and be ready for a stage show. That's much fucking different.
Yeah. I think even after doing it for so long, I always tend to kind of underestimate how different it is. Like we'll spend hours and hours and hours and hours putting the song down in the studio, and then we'll get into practice. I'm like, everybody knows their parts. We know how to do this. And then we'll give it a shot, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, it's
yeah,
100% different. It's almost, for a little bit at least, it's almost like learning a cover. Like you hear a completed song, you hear what it's supposed to sound like, and then you have to take, quarters, at least in our case, or Suntitle's case too, like 4 quarters and make it a whole. It is very different. And I think that's kind of like what the magic of live music is. Even if you aren't a musician, you don't play in bands, you don't totally understand the ins and outs of like the different nuances. It's you kind of get the energy and the vibe when that is coming together live in front of you. Like there is something kind of magical and impressive about it when a band is good and it all gels. Like there is a discernible difference, even if you can't articulate what that difference is. Like you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And that can either be a really good thing or a really bad thing.
Yeah. Seth,
yeah.
let's
'Cause,
talk a little bit about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
no, you're good. I was just gonna
I
say
was.
like,
Yeah.
what's up?
I was gonna say, go for it.
No, it's just yeah. Even with like this last release, like we talked about it in a couple other interviews, but like cellophane was not supposed to be a part of it. And we were working on this other song, and everybody was kind of pulling in different directions, and everybody you could tell was kind of starting to get, you know, less patience with it and a little agitated. So like we took it to Will, our producer, and we were like, hey, like we're having a hard time right now. And we ended up all just plugging in because he had drums set up in his room, and I don't know, recording or anything like that, but somehow I was able to be in the live room. Pat, Colin, and Joey were all in the control room, and we just sat there and we just started bouncing ideas off of each other. And Pat knows I hate going into the studio not having everything down to a T. Having to
Yeah,
change stuff in the studio
Yeah.
stresses me out so much.
that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
It's where the
like with
song comes
cellophane,
alive, right?
oh yeah, like
It's bound to happen no matter what, but
yeah, rewriting stuff is inevitable when we're in the studio, like because somebody will play something and then somebody will be like, oh, well, like somebody will just have an idea pop in and be like, well, what if we tried this? So like rewriting always happens for us in the studio. I'd say probably like 50% of the drum parts that go on are either ideas that I come up with while like somebody's tracking like a guitar part, or maybe like an on the fly thing where I'm just like, oh, I've had this in the back of my brain lately. Like, let me see if this works. So yeah, like very much like coming out of the studio, it's like, oh, like shit, what did I just play? Like, so when we finally get it back, it's like, oh yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Seth, what I was gonna ask you is, Pat kind of already threw you under the bus slash sang your praises for it. You focus a lot on that live session, or the live experience as you're recording. What goes into that for like the mentality of, is it just because you want to play it live so badly that you want it to sound the same regardless of if they're streaming it or there?
I mean, I think that's just like part of the experience. Like, I mean, when I think about like for me personally, like when I go to a show and I'm watching bands play, like I've seen so many bands where they just kind of like they just stand like they could be as locked in and as perfect sounding as possible. But like if you just stand up there like a fucking corpse and just like go through the motions and play your song, that's really cool and you're really talented. But like I could just stream your shit. And it's like, I paid money to be here. Give me a fucking show. And like, like that sounds shitty, but I'm like, that's what I do. Like I try to like,
Yeah.
I want people to come and see my band and be like, holy shit. Like I don't want them to leave and be like, yeah, that was like fine. Like that was cool or whatever. Like I want it to be like a good time for like people who come. Cause like, I feel like you should get your money's worth. Like it's a show. It's supposed to be a good time. You're supposed to have fun with your friends and like, you're supposed to see bands kick ass. So like kick ass.
Dude,
Yeah.
I feel like the most like, at least like for me personally, like I feel the best after a show knowing and like seeing everybody else, like everybody just collectively has like nothing left to give after the
Yeah.
last song.
Yeah.
Like that for me is like, okay, like we put it all out there just then, like, like of course, like I want to play well. Like I'll definitely be the first person to be like, oh, I fucked this part up. But like as long as like everybody is like still, I guess, putting that energy in and not like losing it because of like maybe like a couple fuck ups or something like that, like yeah, I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
I think the kind of shows that we love playing to, the audience participation is such a huge part of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what's so special about hardcore and punk and even pop punk and all the genres surrounding that kind of music is the coolest part about being at those shows is that you have the opportunity to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, because of that, like personally, I don't really give a shit about, I don't want to say I don't care about musicianship, be good at your instrument, but like,
Right.
I don't give a shit about shredding. I don't care about how fast you can tremolo pick. I don't care if you're playing 3 chords for an entire song. If you are a locked in band and you can lose your mind on stage and you can elicit a reaction from an audience, that's what I care about. Is like, if you're playing polyrhythms for 7 minutes straight and you're all locked in unison, and then you switch to 5/4 time for a measure and then you come back and it's seamless, like fucking cool. I don't care. If
You're really
boring
good. We get it.
yeah, I got it. You probably went to like Belmont or something, but like I don't care. Like I care about songs. I care about how honest the lyrics are. I care about how well thought out the melody is, and I care about how the audience feels like compelled to sing back and lose their minds to whatever you're playing. And if it sounds like shit, it kind of can take you out of it, but at the same time there is like a certain charming imperfection to a lot of like punk music. Like
Mm-hmm.
who was shit, what band was it No Justice that like it was like one of their last shows?
That was the farewell show.
Yeah,
Insane.
during the first
Wildest set I've
song,
ever seen.
the singer grabs the cymbal stand and throws it into the crowd and
Throws
then
it into
jumps
the
off the speaker
crowd.
stack. They
Yeah, he
can't
starts
play
throwing like
Right.
cymbal
half the song,
stands off of the stage. Like it's
but
madness.
it doesn't
It's
fucking matter.
crazy.
It doesn't
Because
matter.
yeah, because the entire crowd is losing their goddamn minds. And after that song, I'm pretty sure somebody passes him the crash cymbal back and he sticks it right back by the drummer, and then they keep going. And it's awesome. So if you can have that level of energy and be just a rock solid tight band, like, I want to watch you play. I want to buy tickets to your show. And I think that's what both our bands are trying to do, is like, I want chaos in front of this piece of art that we've tried really, really hard to hone in. And like,
Right.
I want everybody to be a part of it. I don't want you standing there just watching us, looking at how perfectly we can play our instruments. I want to sound good, but that's why I focus on songwriting and not like, I don't care about that. I also can't do that.
Right.
So,
Right. So who's the artist? So as you guys are talking about that, you know, there's obviously people that come to mind for the showmanship, right? Like the one that came to mind immediately for me is Ryan Tuck from Fit for a King. If
Yep.
he misses a
Okay.
fucking note before he goes into one of his spins that takes 38 seconds anyway, I don't give a fuck. That's dope. You know,
Yeah.
like who are some people that you guys kind of look at as, again, if they miss a note, whatever, like they show up so well that you're gonna forget that one fuck up because it's so good. I also kind of
I
think of
can
like Adam Lazara, right? Like the mic swings and stuff. Like, okay, he missed a note. Oh well.
Yeah, I think he's like famously like not that good live, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
I like the first person that comes to mind, and it's like, I guess not like a famous person or anything like that, but Duncan Newey from
I
No
knew you were
Cure
gonna
and
say
Bleak.
Duncan.
He is a famous
One of
person. What do
my
you
Dude.
mean?
favorite people in the world. And
Man.
I mean, he doesn't miss notes, but like it's just one of those things where like even if you can see it on his face where like he might think like something wasn't the cleanest or something like that, like that dude just plays the
He
drums.
gives it
It's
all.
crazy. He
Yeah.
abuses those things, and it's
Yeah.
like I will like any time that I'm able to watch Dewey play the drums, I will be right next to him just watching every move because it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's he's just it never gets old to watch. Like dude's incredible.
I think we've been lucky enough to tour with a lot of bands that have that same mentality too. Someone that comes to mind is Nick from Sign Language.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just super aggressive vocals, but he throws his entire self into every single note he sings, and he is never standing still. A band that we're about to go on tour with, actually, that I just saw the other night, and Matt was there too. Stand Still. Their lead singer Jerry is
Yeah,
great.
Jerry's
I was
dude, he's
standing
so
next to
good.
the door of the venue, like one of the exit doors next to the stage, and he saw me singing along. And during one of the verses, he grabbed my shirt and pushed me out the door, and then went right back on stage. Like, it's just like, lose yourself in it. Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point, and it's
Yeah.
just cool. Yeah.
You get what you give. If you don't give, you're not gonna get from the crowd. Like Pat said, they're just gonna like stand there staring at you, admiring that you know how to play your instrument. Like you have to like if you don't give it all, like you're not gonna get shit. And like that's lame.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you know, to everyone's point, really, like, what's the incentive for them to come back, right? Like, cool, I
Exactly.
Right.
came and saw you at the show and it was okay, but I'm not going to spend my money to see it again. So,
Yeah.
you know, you have to put that energy out there. And, you know, I think it also, for people that don't, you know, perform in bands or a live band for that matter, like putting that energy out there, there's no high like receiving that energy back from a crowd.
100%. Yeah. That's the whole reason we're doing it. It's like, also, like, if you play a shot show on tour, if you get one person going like, God damn, and like looking at you like, holy shit, while you're playing, it's like, sick. Like,
Yeah.
we did it right.
Yeah.
Dude, we had that happen on the last tour we went on. I can't remember. I won't say where we were at or like who we were playing with. I don't want to like oust anybody, but like it was a pretty like the show was it left a lot to be desired. We can just say that. I remember we're all on stage and like Joe's like giving his like mid-song spiel bits, and he's just like, has anybody seen us here before? And I just remember like looking down and like I was mumbling to myself. I was like, nobody's ever fucking seen us before. But then there's just this one girl in the back who was just like, yeah. And that just made it all worth it. I was like, that's fucking
You're
sick.
talking about Chattanooga right now.
God damn it. I said I wasn't gonna. Yeah, I am.
But you know, that's again, I think that side of things gets lost to a lot of fans. They don't realize how much those interactions mean to the band as well. It's not just you there to put an impression on them, it's them putting impression on you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think as speaking purely for myself too, I think like vocally there is something to be said as far as like how genuinely and honest you can deliver the lyrics that you write too. And I think that comes through in a live performance. Two people that come to mind immediately, and these aren't even like aggressive bands. The energy isn't going to be like, excuse me, oh my God. The energy isn't going to be like violent or aggressive necessarily, but like Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie.
Yep.
And also Jason Isbell.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two guys that play relatively soft music, but they write goddamn poetry. And I haven't seen Ben Gibbard play, but I saw Jason Isbell, and it was one of the most like moving, like captivating shows I've ever seen. Like no one's moshing, but you can tell he means what he's singing with his whole ass heart. And it's like watching a fish swim. And if you can combine that kind of honesty and genuine intention with just like firecracker energy, I think it's insane and it's magic. Like, and that's kind of like I feel like what all of us are trying to do in our playing is like play like you goddamn mean it and demand people's attention.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't clown me for this, but who is that?
Ben Gibbard?
Which one?
No, Jason Isbell.
Jason
Okay.
Isbell is a solo artist. He's a singer-songwriter. He used to play in Drive By Truckers. He writes some of the saddest and most honest Americana country music you will ever hear in your life. And I went with my dad and my brother and saw him on Browns Island in Richmond last year. And I don't cry at shows. I was crying half the time because I was like, oh my God, this is a tortured fucking guy. And he poured his entire soul into every single song. And it's insane how he understands the way to translate that to a live audience. It's insane. And like, I left that show being like, I need to write better songs. Like how it's like, it's the kind of thing where you listen to his lyrics and you're like, how the fuck did he come up with that? But you can't imagine anything else being sang over that song.
That's the
crazy.
best motivation now, like ever.
Yeah.
Like seeing, like playing, that was like the first time we played with Frontside. I just remember watching that band. Dude, they finished their set and I was like, we need to fucking do better. Like,
yeah, either step up or step out, right? Like,
exactly.
It's time to decide.
They will always be better bands than us, but those are the bands I want to play with. Like,
for sure. Well, because I think, you know, I was just talking to Felicity not too long ago,
mm-hmm.
and we talked about the Orlando music scene and whatnot because it's fucking on fire.
Orlando.
Yeah, they're so cool, and I think it's one of those things that we talked about was like building the community where you're playing with artists that you enjoy as well, because a rising tide raises all ships, right? Like,
right.
If we're all playing together and trying to do better because of this people in the scene, it's just going to make the scene that much better.
That's been a conversation with not even like in terms of cities, but genre too. Like I know there's been a lot of talk in hardcore about like Turnstile.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people will gatekeep hardcore and say that they're mainstream now. And like, I understand the ethos behind it. And I understand why you're saying that. But at the same time, like they are a huge reason why hardcore is having such a moment right now. Yeah. And like, we went and saw them last year in Baltimore. And oh my God.
I think that was more than a year ago, buddy. That was probably like 2 years ago.
Oh, that was 2 years ago.
I was going to say, last year they were on tour with Blink. So
that was before we saw them. They hadn't put out Glow On yet.
Yeah,
it was
before,
like 3 days before they released Glow On. So 2 years ago. But it was a free show at the band shell in the park in Baltimore. and oh my god, like unbelievable show. Good, like a really great example of like genuine performance, like unmatched live energy, and also sounding tight as fuck as a band.
Yeah, I think, you know, the thing there is that you mentioned about like gatekeeping. It's one of the things I can never wrap my head around, because like you don't want your favorite band to be well known and successful and make money.
Right. Yeah.
Like
It's like I don't know. There's certain, in terms of hardcore, and like far be it from me to like explain the pillars of
right.
hardcore like I'm, you know, all knowing or whatever, but like I do understand that there's a certain punk ethos behind like hardcore is not supposed to be commercially viable. It's supposed to be underground. It's
Anti-establishment, yeah.
supposed to be for the people that are there for no other reason other than the fact that they need the energy and they need the community. But Turnstile is also a band that has been like, they know who they are and they know why they're doing it, and they have never done anything different. It's just working on a scale that it almost never has now, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, personally I love that band, and I think the general consensus is that people love that band. There's always going to be people that poo-poo it, but you know, that they have their reasons, whatever. Like I love Turnstile.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. You know, like I'm 38, so I grew up in prime Blink 182 era, right? And then when
Right.
they
Yeah.
started getting mainstream, people are shitting on them, and it's like, but guys, isn't that what we've wanted all this time? Is for them to be successful, so they keep making music that we can relate to. And you know, like I will say, Neighborhood's not my favorite album. Whatever, it happens.
Join the club.
But you know, I think
I
they
like that record.
rebounded. It it's not an awful record. It's not their best record though.
I love the production on that record. I hate California. Don't like that record. But
That's fair too.
I love the production on Neighborhoods. I don't like Matt Skiba era Blink.
Yeah,
I love
I would
Alkaline
agree with that.
Trio, no hate, but I don't like Matt Skiba era.
Yep, I would totally agree with that. So we kind of veered off a little bit, mainly because we were talking about recording process and, you know, transferring it to live. Let's talk about the songs a little bit. You know, on the split, you guys did for House and Home, you've got Cellophane and At the Bottom, and then Suntitle did Bad Luck and At Your Feet. How intentional was it with those songs? I know, Matt, you said Cellophane wasn't originally supposed to be one of them, but like, how intentional was it when you crafted the songs that like, okay, these kind of pair together a little bit, let's use that set?
Um,
Or was it not even a discussion on that?
to be honest, I don't. When we decided to go into the studio to do two songs, we set the expectation that we were going to be really intentional with the songs pairing together, maybe transitioning into one another, XYZ, this, that, and the other thing. And then we kind of tunnel visioned onto each song while we were writing it, and they became their own things. And I feel like we didn't really feel the need to incorporate them into each other in any specific way.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, it just, our focus became solely just making two songs that we were really stoked on, whether the vibe was the same or completely different between the two. And I mean, I think we did that. I'm stoked on both of them for a variety of different reasons for each one. But yeah, I think by the end of it, at least for me, the only goal was like make both really good songs. I don't really care how similar or different they are from each other. I just want to be proud of both songs.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like especially because with the last EP that we did, all four songs were so different, I would say. Very much like kind of just spreading like the four corners of the things we had already written, kind of like stretching the reach in every direction just to see what we could come up with. And I think these two songs are like a perfect example of what we learned from that process and kind of figuring out like the sound that we really want to continue going with. So I feel like two songs, like, yeah, like after putting out the last EP, like I think this is exactly what we were trying to get out of that process.
Seth, anything?
I don't know.
You missed the question, didn't you? Intentionality on why those songs or anything like that in your mind, as far as like, why are these the two Suntitle tracks that we're going to pick for this split, or was it just this is what we have and let's roll with it?
I think, yeah, I think that's why I don't know. I think it was very different from House Home. I think it was very much just like, we have these songs, we don't know what the fuck to do with them. Here's an opportunity to do something with them.
Yeah,
Well,
because
Seth,
there's
you joined the band after those two songs were done too.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was like
that's
right
fair.
around the time I joined. Right around the time y'all were working on them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well,
fair.
yeah, because it was, I think Joe was still finishing vocals around that time. Like instrumentals were already done. So yeah, it was basically something that like Joe pretty much, I guess, brought to the rest of us and was like, hey, like, this is what we got out of like the last thing. Like, what do we want to do with these three songs? And then that was around the time because we were also trying to figure out like, do we go with three songs from each band, or do we end up, you know, picking two of them on the Suntitle side and pick from there? And I think the one that we wanted to get out was Bed of Roses, and plus we had already printed merch that had Bed of Roses on it, so we were like, all right,
Cool
like,
hats.
yeah, we'll
Yeah, that
go
was
with
such a
this one,
fucking
and
good
then
idea.
the other two will slap on the split with House and Home.
Yeah, dope. I don't know that it's ever been done. Pat, you're a historian here, so maybe you'll have some insight. What about like doing a full length that's a split, like a call and response or a conceptual album that is both of you guys kind of splitting the duties?
Ooh, I don't know that it's ever been done.
Like a full album, like just like a full album
Yeah,
split,
do like
or
a
like, are you
full
talking
length
like?
album, like a full length album split where let's say it's 12 songs and you're each doing 6. But in my mind, I'm going with like almost like call and response. Track 1 is House and Home, track 2 is Suntitle, kind of continuing that story.
I
Dude,
mean,
I
the
don't know if a
new
band's ever
Just
done that on a
diss
record,
tracks.
I
but
don't think they have intentionally.
Right.
The new Pain of Truth record has the equivalent of like 7 different bands on it.
7
But
different bands on it. Bands do that. Bands do that shit live though. Battle set
yeah,
used to be
true.
like a real fucking thing where like you just set up two bands, band would play a song, and then the band right next to them would play a song. You just go back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. Well,
That's
maybe you
interesting.
guys do an album that way, you know? It'd be kind of a crazy idea. So I want royalties now that I said it though. So
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as we start getting them, we'll send you some.
Yeah, don't worry.
As soon as we make a dime off this shit.
Yeah, I think that's something too. Again, Pat, you and I may have talked about it when we last spoke, like the misconception that, oh, their music's on Spotify, they're doing okay. It's like, no, that any streaming platform, like we don't have to just shit on Spotify. It's all of them, but
Yeah.
that doesn't measure your success.
Yeah. For anyone listening that has never been in a band that releases music, you could put voice memos from your phone on Spotify if you wanted to. That doesn't mean anything.
It's not hard.
Yeah, it's
You need access to the internet. That's
yeah.
it.
It's
My podcast is on there, so you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool in a way that it's so easy to get your music out there. But part of the reason, Spotify is like the evil empire. They don't pay shit to artists, but part of the reason that it is so hard to kind of individualize yourself and gain any attention is because it's so easy. So many people are doing it. Which is cool because there's all this new music out there and people have more avenues to showcase what they're doing than they ever have, but it also floods the market, right? So you shouldn't do it if you're doing it expecting to make a bunch of money, because you are not going to.
You won't. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of the money we make as a band goes into either feeding ourselves on the road or straight back into the band, paying for our van, paying for merch, paying for this, that, and the other thing. So any and all basically money that we make comes from touring. And even then, like, we're not making a paycheck off this shit really. So it is just not realistic for bands our size. We've been a band for a while now. So if you expect to make any money doing this, at least for the first however many years, the odds are slim. So I think obviously the goal is to turn it into a career and make it financially viable. And you do see little bits of progress towards that, but you can't have that be the reason that you do it. And you also can't have the lack of that financial viability be the reason you stop, because then you're never going to
don't let that scare you off.
Yeah.
Go into debt with your homies. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to MC Lars. This has been years ago. This was Warped Tour was still a thing because we talked about it on Warped Tour. So like 2014 maybe. And he made the joke that, you know, even with streaming really starting to take off, then he goes, I'm a t-shirt salesman that happens to rap. Like, that's my money comes from my merch sales, not from putting my music out. And it's the sad reality for a lot of bands. Like, you're a merch shop that makes music.
Yeah, you're a brand with songs.
Yeah, we have a 30-minute long commercial, and then you come to the store afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of a testament to how fun this shit is. If we're willing to do all that, make next to no money, and still go as hard as we are. It's like it's what we want to do, and there's a reason, because I've never loved doing anything as much as I love doing this.
Yeah.
But goddamn, buy my merch.
Please.
Or like at least offer to buy me pizza after the show or something.
Yeah,
you know, I've done that with
crash on.
We get the opposite. If we get pizza, people are taking it.
Oh my god, dude. we were in Cincinnati, and we played Big Room in Cincinnati, and it was a really cool show. And the promoter bought us. It was Legends. You're right. Big Room is in Columbus. It was Legends. And no, the promoter didn't buy it. We went to this pizza spot down the street, and we bought a little pizza for ourselves, and we had just loaded all our gear out. And we're sitting there on one of the high top tables in the venue eating pizza. And this fool in this giant leather jacket comes up and looks at us and goes, "Pizza time?" And we're all looking at him like, huh? And he goes, "Like the Ninja Turtles." And then he takes a slice and walks away. He was just some dude at the show.
That's the coolest. That's the funniest thing. Holy shit.
So we just look at each other and say, "Pizza time?" all the time now.
That's absolutely ridiculous. You know, I'm one of those people that I've definitely, especially when I know it's not trying to knock you guys at all, but a band your size that like the gas money is what the tip jar is to get to the next city. Like, I've definitely been there and been like, hey, you guys got, 20 minutes, I can get a pizza here or whatever, because I know that may be the only food you fucking get that night.
Seth,
I don't know why you just had fucking fireworks.
Fireworks? How do you do that?
Wait, can I do it again? Hold on, this is all I did. Hold on, we'll do it again.
Look at that. Oh, Matt got it.
There you go, Matt got him.
Matt, we figured it out.
That's dope. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen that.
But like, when a band says on stage, like, any little bit counts or any little bit helps, like, they fucking mean it. Like,
they mean it. They mean it.
Food is the number one thing that will cost you money on tour. Like, you can do a lot of stupid things to go broke on tour. We try not to, but spending money on food is a big drain on the bank account. We'll do, like, if we're making decent money on shows, whether that's at door or on ticket sales or merch or whatever, like, we'll try and throw per diems everyone's way, like $10-15 a day, just to, like, you buy breakfast and lunch, don't worry about it for the day. But it's food is a huge thing.
Yeah. Like one of them that comes to mind, I won't throw the band or the venue under the bus on this, but a friend's band was performing in Indy. I'll give that much away.
Mm.
And the venue's a pretty small venue. And unfortunately, a lot of the crowd came out for the local support and were like leaving before the headliner because
Yeah.
they just didn't care, or whatever.
Local sandwich.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm talking the headliner finished their set with maybe 25 people in this room. Like
Mhm.
it's a 300, 400 spot room.
Ugh,
And
that's
I went up to
rough.
I went up to my friend and I was like, handed $50 over to him, and they're like, "Oh, I can't do it." And I'm like, "Look at this fucking room. If you don't take this goddamn money, you're not getting to Chicago tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
this is absolutely an okay thing.
Yeah.
And it obviously I didn't mind. Like, I'm not saying it from that aspect, but like, it's sad that if you're gonna be there for anyone listening to this, if you're gonna show up for the local support that are your friends, stay for the
Please
goddamn
stay.
headliner. You've already
Please
paid the
stay.
money.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well,
Please
that's the
stay.
thing,
Most of the
too.
time,
Like,
we're friends with the local band that you came to
Right.
see, and we're all out back talking shit about you. So you might as well save yourself the embarrassment and just stick around.
we yeah, we try to do what Seth mentioned, the local sandwich, where it's local opener, touring band, local headliner. So there's incentive for anybody that doesn't know to stick around the whole time. Yeah, just please stay for the whole show. It's a lot of fun.
We already have your
Like,
money. You might as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
That's the point of it. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that's the part that blew my mind is like, you've already paid to get in the room and you're leaving before the headliner who's theoretically getting the largest cut of the door price anyway.
Yeah. I
Like,
think most of the people that do that don't like either don't play in bands, and at the very least, like, don't really go to shows.
yeah.
I feel like if people are kind of immersed in this subculture or involved in their local scene, they kind of understand what it takes to be a smaller touring band and are honestly interested in discovering new music through seeing bands at live shows. It happens a lot when like the local band brings like their coworkers out that are just like,
Right.
oh, we're going to do this
Yeah.
we're going to see your band before we go to the bar, kind of thing.
that's the
People
big
that pay
thing.
$10 to go into a 200 cap room and call it a concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Concert,
Pat
yeah.
brought up a good point. Like that's like I hate using this word because it just sounds kind of like corny or whatever. But like I think you can really tell a difference when you're like, especially on the road, like when you go to like a city, you can really tell like what places have like scenes, for lack of a better word, and what places just have like what Pat and Matt were saying, like, oh yeah, like five of my coworkers are coming to see me because I play in this band type deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like there's places like scenes. It's like they know the drill. They're friends with these bands. Usually, these bands are doing the same shit. They get it, like, and they stick around, and it's usually a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not out of a sense of obligation either. Like they want to be there.
They want to be there.
You
They
know?
want to support. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say the opposite as well. Like, if you're going to a show simply because of the headliner, get there fucking early and watch the opener. Like,
Yeah,
they're
totally.
out there
Mhm.
busting their ass just as
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
Yeah, and if your favorite band took this band on tour to open for them, odds are you're probably going to like them. And if you've never heard of them, go watch their set because
Right.
it might be sick, you know?
And I mean, again, worst case scenario, you're out what, 30 minutes? Whoop-de
Yeah.
fucking do. Like,
Yeah.
What
It's
were
a
you
drop
going
in
to
the
do?
bucket of your life.
Sit at your house for 30 more minutes before you drove to
Right.
the venue? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. If nothing else, just it's an excuse to stick around and just get drunk. You know, like have
There
a
you
good
go.
time.
Yeah. Pregame a little
Like,
bit. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
go home and drink alone with your cat like a sad sack. Like fuck you. Have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I started doing, Pat, after our conversation, literally just started like a year ago. I refused to think of better ending questions, so I bought this game called Hot Takes, and it's just shitty fucking opinions and stuff. So we're gonna pull a couple of these and see what you guys agree with, disagree with, expand on, whatever. The first one is that dark chocolate is better than milk chocolate.
hard agree.
That's no fuck that. That's
Hard.
No, I don't think I
Hard
agree with
agree.
that one.
No,
I'll
hard
eat
agree.
either of
Y'all have toddlers' palates.
Shut up, Pat. You were drinking double IPAs when you were 9 months old.
Look at that. See that?
Yeah, go outside and chew on grass. Dark chocolate sucks.
Nah, dude. I used to work at a chocolate shop. I know my fucking chocolate. Milk chocolate's trash.
No, you're fucking trash.
I think it depends on the situation. If it's a candy bar or something, I think dark chocolate, depending on the other ingredients. Like if it's just a straight Hershey bar, I'll take a dark chocolate straight Hershey bar. But I don't want like a dark chocolate fucking Snickers.
Okay, caramel and dark chocolate is pretty.
It's
fucking
just
good,
not
though.
good.
I will eat milk chocolate. If someone offers me, if I have no chocolate and someone's like, here's some milk chocolate, I'm going to take the milk chocolate. But like, if someone's like, do you want this milk chocolate or like 70% dark chocolate? Like, I'm taking the dark chocolate every time. Dude, little dark chocolate with a little sea salt in it. Oh my God. So good.
Are you 85?
No, Trader Joe's it's like dark chocolate sea salt caramel things, and it's crazy. Yeah, I'm really not that
So
picky
good.
over either of them, but I'll prefer the milk.
Yeah.
I like the milk.
Elderly people should be required to retake the driver's test.
Hard agree.
I think they should just have that shit revoked. Why would we give them another opportunity to
at certain age? I definitely agree, Seth. Like,
sorry, Grandma, you shouldn't be on the roads.
No, I think about the time you retire, you get one more shot to renew it, and then at like 70, it's just gone. You don't get it anymore.
I'll take it one step further. I think to get a license in the first place, you have to take an IQ test.
That's fair too.
I think that's
because there are definitely some people that do not need a license.
Oh yeah.
This one I think is a no-brainer for this little group here. The music that I listen to affects my mood.
So yes, but
I don't know. I feel like my mood affects what I listen to.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's probably my answer, Matt. You're probably right.
I can be as happy as I've ever been in my entire life, and I'll still listen to sad, angry ass music. So I don't know, man. My fiance gives me shit for that all the time. She's like, "You are like a genuinely pretty happy person. Why do you write and listen to such sad, angry music?" And I'm like, "That's why I'm such a happy person.
Where it goes. Yeah. That's why I'm happy.
It's got to go somewhere."
That's fair. Ghosts are real.
Yep. Yes.
Nah, fuck out of here.
I'm not religious at all. I'm not religious at all, but I 100% believe in the afterlife and like another realm. I've never had any like concrete, provable experiences, but I 100% believe that like they're out there. If you're Zach Baggins, go fuck yourself, but they're out there.
I don't know. That's a tough one because I would say I've had unexplainable situations, and like I don't like. Yeah, I don't know. That's a very tough one because also I've known people who've been like, oh yeah, there's one right next to you right now, and I'm like, fuck you. No, like no.
I don't know about that.
But like there have definitely been things that have happened that have like stuck the hairs up on the back of my neck where I've been like, oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where I don't know if I can call it that or like,
I don't know about like every motherfucker with green hair being like, I'm a medium. Like,
right.
But like,
I think for me,
it's the idea.
Right. And I think for me, I'm similar to Pat where like, I'm not religious. I would say that I'm like, not in the hippie way, but like I'm spiritual, right? Like I believe that there is something bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
So my argument is that ghosts are just energy because like we've scientifically proven you can't destroy energy. So like when somebody dies, that energy has to go somewhere. That's a ghost. Like
science.
Yeah. I still agree with you. Like fuck Zach Baggins, but
yeah, like that shit's not real. If you're making a TV show out of it, like ghosts are not talking to you. But
right,
I have been like obsessed to a certain extent with like YouTubers like going and like staying at the Conjuring house and like doing some of that shit's pretty crazy. But
Yeah,
it's also like they're doing it for views. So like I only trust it so much. But it's entertaining.
for sure. Last one is going to be baths are better than showers.
No.
Right?
I
Oh
don't
my
know if
God,
I've
no.
taken a bath in the past.
Not
Baths are
since you
better
were
than
like
showers.
8 years old, right? Like,
Yeah. You want to sit in a tub filled with your dirt water?
Dude, here's
No,
what
it's
I'll say to that.
disgusting.
The closest thing that I've done even semi-regularly in the past 10 years to a bath is a hot tub. And I take a shower after I get out of the hot tub.
yeah, because it's a people stew. Like, it's
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
gross.
So yeah, showers 100%.
Yeah, showers all day. I feel like if you're taking a bath for the relaxation, you get a pass. But if you're taking a bath to like
To
wash
clean yourself, yeah.
you're gross. No, fuck
Okay,
that.
yeah,
Take a shower.
that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
there's a time and place.
That's fair. I would
Dude.
agree with that if it's for relaxation, acceptable. But even then, within reason. Like if you're sitting in that
Yeah.
shit for a fucking hour, you're
That
fucking
water's
still
not hot.
pretty
You're
gross.
dirty.
Yeah.
Room
Yeah.
temp at best.
I'll
What is
straight up just
enjoyable
sit down
about
in my
that?
shower sometimes, and it's
Dude, I
basically
was
the
gonna
same thing.
say if you want to relax in the shower, get a rain shower head. We just put a rain shower in our apartment. Oh my God. It's
I got a
awesome.
folding chair in there.
It's got one of those little pop out camping chairs. It's just pops
Yeah.
it up.
I have one of the old people rails on the wall to really pull myself up.
Awesome. So yeah, that's basically everything I've got for you guys. We do the traditional outro here. Since there's two bands, you guys can fight amongst yourselves, but take the last couple minutes, however long it takes you. We're going to link all your socials and everything, but where can people find you? What's the best way to interact? What can they expect out of 2024 for both bands?
We're streaming everywhere. We're on all social media. House and Home is going on tour in early to mid-March with Standstill. We're doing a few days with those guys. I know Suntitle has some tour plans that have yet to be announced. We also have more tour plans that have yet to be announced later in the year. Both bands are writing new music. Both bands have plans to play all over the place, including our hometown of Richmond at some point. If you're listening in Richmond, we have not forgotten about you. Yeah, we'll see you at a show. Come to a show. That's the whole reason we're doing this.
Fuck yeah.
Awesome. Anything to expand on, Matt or Seth?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. You can listen to us everywhere. We're everywhere. We're on every social media platform. We have shows coming up that haven't been announced. We do have one show that's announced. We're playing in Raleigh, North Carolina at King's March 31st, maybe. I don't know the date. It's Easter, so if you don't fuck around with Easter, fuck around with Suntitle.
Yeah, going into the studio this weekend.
This weekend.
So,
Oh yeah, new
we'll
shit.
have a new song out whenever we get that back, probably. And
Big things coming.
yeah, big things coming.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate your time. Like I said, I think, you know, both bands are really on this really cool trajectory right now with the way the music scene's set up currently, with the way that people are starting to really engage with music again, which it feels like is still pretty weird to say after COVID and everything, that people are finally excited to get out to shows again and whatnot. But yeah, I'm stoked for you guys. Definitely, I'll be keeping my eye on tour dates, and if you get over to Indiana, Cincinnati, or Chicago, I most likely can be there. So we'll fuck around.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll keep you posted on when this goes live and everything.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks so much for having us, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you.